Hello, I'm Tate the Mirror.
So I reached out to another friend of mine. I said, look, I need to go on vacation somewhere. Where should I go? He said, go to Africa. And not only am I going to go, I'm going to explore a new country. So I went to Tanzania, South Africa, Namibia, Mali, Senegal, Morocco, Liberia, Namibia, Kenya, the Voodoo Festival in Ouida, Gambia, Togo, Cote d'Ivoire. Sierra Leone, Ghana, Nigeria. It's been a beautiful experience, just learning more about our culture, our indigenous culture. So Uhuru means freedom in Swahili. I'm in search of my roots. In finding that, I would experience my Uhuru, which is freedom.
Till next time, Tate, I'm out.
Peace, family. I hope all is well. I hope today's Monday. Yeah, today's Monday. I hope your Monday night is going well. Do me a favor, hit the like button again. Please hit the like button. Also, make sure you share and make sure you subscribe. I will really appreciate it. I want to thank all of you guys for the support. I'm sorry, I'm reading the message. Ebube's coming on. He's sending me a message. I was just reading the message, guys. Sorry about that. I want to thank all of you all for the support. Again, I want to thank all of you all for the support. So before Ebube comes on, just a couple of announcements. Announcement number one, if you have not bought the documentary In Search of Uhuru, again, if you have not bought the documentary In Search of Uhuru, please go to searchforuhuru.com. Again, please go to searchforuhuru.com and buy the documentary, okay? Stop what you're doing. Even if you're watching this, go to searchforuhuru.com, buy the documentary. This documentary is going to motivate you and excite you and get you ready to travel to Africa. And also, like I said, when it comes to engaging Africa, this is the number one documentary out when it comes to engaging the continent. So please go to searchforuhuru.com and buy the documentary. I greatly appreciate it. Last announcement, tours. Listen, we are rolling to Sierra Leone. We are rolling to Sierra Leone in April. We are rolling to Sierra Leone in April. All right, so we're going to Sierra Leone in April. Hold on, let me put this up here. Go visit downfo.africa to learn more. So Sierra Leone, for the citizenship ceremony, even if you're not eligible for citizenship, you're more than welcome to join us in Sierra Leone. They have not officially announced the ceremony yet, but per my sources, there's gonna be a ceremony. So please visit Danfo, DANFO.Africa. Again, please visit Danfo, DANFO.Africa to learn more. Then we're going to Senegal in May for the Jazz Festival. We're going to Senegal in May for the Jazz Festival. Come and join us in Senegal for the Jazz Festival. Go to Danfo.Africa to learn more. Then we're going to Nigeria in August for the Osun Festival. Again, Nigeria in August for the Osun Festival. Come and join us in Nigeria in August. Without further ado, listen, waiting for brother Ebube to come on. Let me see what's going on with him. Okay, he wants to send me to send a link again. Hold on one second, guys. Let me send him the link. Sending now. Hold on one second. Let me get the link to him. Ebube Okoli. Link. Bam, there we go. Okay. Okay, there we go. Sent. Sent. All right, link has been sent to brother Ebube. He has the link. Let's wait for him to get on. And we're going to be talking. Ebube is our in-house lawyer. And so we're going to be discussing the Andrew Tate situation, the Andrew Tate case. So let's get Ebube in here. Stop the screen. Y'all quiet in the chat room? Let's get brother Ebube in the chat. Let's see here. You know, he's going to give us an update on the Andrew Tate situation and also go into detail about it. And Ebube is a lawyer, attorney at law, who practices criminal law here in the Atlanta area. So let's wait for Ebube. Ebube should be here any minute now. Hold on one second. He should be here any minute, guys. Be here any minute now. Thank you for being patient. In fact, this is what we'll do. We'll go ahead and go to a quick commercial break. We'll be right back.
Alexis here, coming to you with an awesome sale of 25% off when you use promo code UHURU25 at alexisfowler.com. I provide services like digital art, logo designs, packaging designs, web designs, social media flyers, and much more. If you're an entrepreneur with a business or a startup company, make sure you take advantage of this opportunity, getting 25% off when you use promo code UHURU25 at alexisfowler.com.
Ebube.
Dynast, what's up, man?
Man, all is well, brother. Cannot complain at all.
It's good to hear, man. That's good to hear.
As always.
Oh, I do have a question though, because
go ahead. We're live, by the way. We're live.
Okay, cool. I'm glad you said that. All right, so I do have a question. The thing is, whenever we're ready to pass it to my screen, just let me know, and I'll go ahead and have everything set up.
Okay. Well, whenever you're ready, you just tell me if you want to do it now or you want to wait until.
We'll wait till the right time.
Wait till the right time. Okay, so everyone, we have brother Ebube Okoli on with us, our in-house lawyer, attorney. Like we have two in-house attorneys. We got Brother Ebube, and then we got Brother Philip Lindsay, who are contributors to the platform. So today's topic, we're going to be discussing Andrew Tate's case. So Andrew Tate, who's an influencer, was recently arrested in, was it Romania? I think
yes,
so.
Romania.
Allegedly he's being accused. Well, he's being accused of alleged sex trafficking. Sex trafficking. Am I correct, Ebube?
Well, there's actually 3 charges that he's being allegedly charged with. You have and these are all under Romanian law. So I had to do a little bit of research into Romanian law. But first off, let me introduce myself. Let me not be rude. My name is Ebube Okoli. I'm a Nigerian-born, American-trained attorney and geopolitical analyst. I'm also the host of Up Close and Center. I'm the creative director there, which is a channel here on YouTube. If you haven't been, make sure you go ahead and head over to Up Close and Center. The logo looks like, oh, there we go. The logo looks like that. I'll flash it again. And so you're there when you reach it, Up Close and Center. I'm releasing a really good documentary called Africa, China, NATO. It's really in depth. If you know me and you're familiar with any of my work, you're gonna get some good things out of this one. I'd say it's my best work by far. Apologize for the wait, but sometimes really good food takes some time to cook.
Right.
So my name is Ebube Okoli, and to answer your question, Dynas, in regards to what he's being charged with, there's actually 3 things so far that he's being charged with. But before we even get there, let me take a step back. Do you want me to dive right into it, or
listen? The floor is yours. Platform is yours. However you want to serve everybody up. Go ahead.
All right, let's do it. Let's get cooking. All right, so now Andrew Tate. Everybody understands who Andrew Tate is. He's a popular figure in mainstream society, whether you like him, whether you don't like him. He's one of those people that he's kind of been around for a few years, but he really rose to prominence rather recently. He really, shot up in terms of popularity. He's a polarizing figure. He's one of the people where some people might not like him for his delivery, and that's as far as they'll go in the analysis of him. They'll hear a soundbite and say, okay, this guy's the worst guy ever. And then some people who might be searching for certain questions in life, they may be attracted to his philosophy on certain items and certain things and ways of life, and they may gravitate to him and see that he does no wrong. The reality is always somewhere in the middle. It's never your fans. It's never your haters. It's with the people who are indifferent about you actually feel that's most likely probably closer to the truth. But that's Andrew Tate. He was a reality TV star for a bit, professional kickboxer for a bit, but he really gained steam and traction as a social media figure, essentially teaching his version of manhood. Every man has a philosophy. Well, most men should have a philosophy on what a man is. And once you have that philosophy, that's your take on manhood. So those of us who were lucky to be raised with a father, we had a father figure who would say, a man does this, a man doesn't do that. He might wake up at 5 a.m. and tell you that a man doesn't sleep till 1 p.m. So you better be up the same time he is up. So, a man will instill these types of lessons onto you. So every man has a philosophy as to what manhood actually is, and Andrew Tate has his. Some people are gravitated to it. Some people are repulsed by it. All right, so recently he's gotten into a bit of hot water. And before we even begin, let me just say that I'm an attorney. I own a law firm, but I'm not your attorney. You haven't paid me any money. So this isn't legal advice. If you need legal advice, contact my office, speak to me or my secretary and make the necessary arrangements. And we'll sign the necessary documents and I'll be your attorney. But currently I'm just a guy on the internet discussing a popular current event media figure. This isn't legal advice, but I am a lawyer, just not you're a lawyer. So now getting back to it, Andrew Tate got into a bit of hot water in Romania recently. What happened is that it appears, and this is all what's been alleged because we're still waiting for more paperwork to come out. So Andrew Tate, he had a situation where he was setting up an organization, an entity where it was similar to OnlyFans, all these cam girl type situations where he would essentially build a business based on these acts that were done on camera for people who would pay a certain subscription to view those acts. There's a niche market out there of people who consume that type of product. Now, normally this is okay as long as the buyer is willing and the seller is willing, and both participants are of a certain age. This is typically allowed. However, the problem comes in when maybe someone is not of a certain age, or someone is not truly consenting, or you're holding someone there against their will and you're forcing them into this life as opposed to them actually wanting to go into the life.
Right.
And so that's where he ran into some problems.
Allegedly.
So looking at it, we have a situation whereby April of last year, April 2022, and these years are just flying by so quick. 2020 feels like last year.
Man, we're already almost a new month.
And January is about to be over, so we're about to be in one of the best months of the year, February, the year of my birth. No coincidence. So what happened is that April of last year, 2022, the U.S. Embassy in Romania received a call that somebody was being held against their will and forced to be one of these cam girls, one of these girls that customers are solicited, and then they get on the internet and these private dedicated links where they can view this content. So now we run into problems because if this person's being held against their will, they're no longer doing these acts in a consensual manner. You've now entered the world of potential sex trafficking. And we have to remember that most sex trafficking isn't like what you see in the movies. It's not that exciting. It's not like Taken, where you're at Walmart, you go out to the parking lot, someone throws a hoodie over your face, you can't see, and then you're thrown in a van and you wake up in Eastern Europe and you're just now in the life. That's not really how it happens. Most times how it happens is there's an acquaintance who makes the suggestion, and then from there you can either follow through with that suggestion or not. That's really how it happens. However, in certain situations, it gets to the point where now you can't leave, meaning that once you've entered that life, there are certain threats to your safety and to other things if you ever try to escape from that condition. And so that's typically where you run into a lot of the trafficking and trafficking charges. It's not as if someone's, gaffling people up and grabbing them and forcing them in vans and the door shuts and end of the scene. Right. No, it's more so, maybe there's a man in your life and you're the type of woman who you might lean in that direction naturally, and he just gives you the nudge into that direction. And then while you're in that life, you get to the point where you might want to leave that life, but you can't leave that life for whatever reason. That's typically how it arises. So in April 2022, being that the U.S. Embassy was contacted because a relative of a U.S. citizen contacted the embassy and stated that, hey, there's someone being held in this compound. They're related to me. They're a United States citizen. And allegedly, this organization, this group of people isn't letting them out. And so that began the first issue and the first investigation as to what exactly this man is doing in this country. So the authorities began taking a harder look at him. And that's when he came out and started talking about the legal issues that he was having. And from there, they went ahead and moved in December. And they believed that they had enough evidence, or at least had enough evidence to begin an investigation in order to potentially take this man to trial. And we have to remember that this is Romanian law. I practice United States law, so I had to do a little bit of research. However, laws are pretty similar. Murder is typically murder in most places. It's not going to be radically different. Now, the elements may be a little bit different, but we can get into that a little bit later when we actually take a look at what we're dealing with. But yeah, so the three things that he's been charged with are rape, one, running a criminal enterprise, which is something similar to RICO in this country, and then human trafficking or sex trafficking, essentially. So those are the three charges. And so now with every charge, what happens is there's something called elements. Elements are what make up a charge, or in order for the government to deprive you of your rights and prove that you did something, they have to meet something called the elements of a crime, which are like, if you think about cooking, it's like the ingredients. So when you have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, in order to properly call something a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, there are a few elements, right? You need 2 slices of bread, at least, at the minimum. And then you need peanut butter and you need jelly. So you need 4 elements to make up what we'd call a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. If any of these things are missing, then you can't be convicted for possession of a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Let's say you just have 2 slices of bread, no peanut butter, no jelly. That's not a PB&J. Let's say you just have jelly in between 2 slices of bread. That's also not a PB&J. It fails on one element. The peanut butter is vital. The jelly is vital. The bread is vital. If you're just carrying peanut butter and jelly in a Ziploc bag, that's not a PB&J. It'd probably be a very disgusting thing to carry around, but it's not a PB&J. So now the law works the same. The law basically says that for you to be convicted of a crime, here are the 5 or 6 or 4 or 3 or 2 or 1 elements that you must be guilty of. So what any attorney does is once I see the charges, the first thing I'm thinking, okay, what are the elements, right? Once you get a call and you do the consultation and you hear the client talk about, yeah, well, here's what happened. And now you look at the crime and you say, okay, here are the elements. And then you say, well, they're lacking element 2 through 4. So now if you go to trial and the prosecutor or the prosecution, the state, they don't put any evidence to show 2 through 5. The next thing you do is you move to dismiss the charges based on the fact that they simply can't charge this person for having a peanut butter sandwich if they never brought up evidence of peanut butter. So now you look at something called the elements. So, Dynast, you talked about sharing my screen.
Right.
So tell me what I should do.
Just share it. Go ahead and share your screen, and then I'll see it. Where it says present, click the present button. And then the document that you want to show, choose that document, then I'll see it, then I'll go ahead and share it. I'll put up
cool.
Here we go. Most of these YouTubers are for entertainment, they lie for views. I want to once you pull up the document, we'll talk about that too, because I know Andrew. So all of his vehicles got repossessed by the Romanian government, but he was always talking about how he has nothing in his name, how they can't touch none of his stuff because he has nothing in his name, but the government came and took all the vehicles.
Well, the reason that they did that is something called asset forfeiture. So, for example, in the United States, and I believe we covered this when I discussed RICO, but in the one second, when it comes to RICO, all right. So, Donis, do you see the screen moving up?
Yeah, it's moving up. I see the
perfect. How large is the font? Is the font okay? Should I zoom in?
Let me do this. I'm gonna go ahead and just let me just enlarge the screen in its entirety so everybody can see it, and then so it's good now. So go ahead. Cool.
All right. So now but yeah, I'll briefly go back over asset forfeiture. Now in regards to asset forfeiture, anytime you're convicted of a crime or charged with a crime where it deals with you potentially receiving money illegally, and you've been brought up on charges on such crimes, the first thing they do is seize your assets. Now, he's been charged with running a criminal enterprise, which is similar to a RICO charge here in the United States. Now, with a RICO charge, what they also do is they seize your assets. So let's say that they claim that it was a conspiracy to distribute cocaine across Southeastern America, across 7 states. And they raid your house, they kick in your door, and they see that you have 7 BMWs, 8 Benzes, and 4 motorcycles. What they're going to do is they're going to seize all of those, and they're going to go ahead and seize your mansion and say that this could potentially be the proceeds of crime.
Okay,
So
got you. So even if the vehicles weren't in his name, or like he makes it seem like it's
well, the thing is this:
you know.
as long as there were proceeds of the crime, meaning that, let's say you're a trapper and you're trapping and you're paying for your grandmother's house out of the earnings that you make off the block. What will happen is that they can take your grandmother's house
Oh
because it was
wow.
being supported by the proceeds of illicit activity. So whatever you spend the money on, they can take, even if it's not in your name. That's just, it's called asset forfeiture. So what I prepared is essentially what I would prepare if, let's say, Andrew Tate was my client. I basically put together everything that I need to know and what you need to know. All right. So now what we have here in regards to the crimes is that he's been charged with organized crime, which is basically RICO, what we would call with Racketeer Influence Corrupt Organization, RICO Act here in the United States, and everything that comes along with that. Romania essentially has the same type of statute. He's also been charged with Romanian, and remember, these are all Romanian law. He's also been charged with human trafficking.
Mm.
And then lastly, he's also been charged with RAPE, which can either be very serious or very hard to prove.
All right.
Because if there was intercourse that happened, sometimes it's difficult to truly know if that was consensual, especially if it was in the context of a relationship. It becomes very murky if somebody has consented multiple times versus if it was just a one-time thing. So it's either very difficult to prove or it's rather easy to allege and prove. All right, so those are the three: organized crime, essentially RICO, human trafficking, and RAPE. Now, here's the actual Romanian statute. Being that I'm trained in the United States as an attorney, these are laws that I have to look up because they're simply not laws I'm familiar with. And remember that the most important thing is looking at the elements of a charge. Because if I'm theoretically going to fight this, I want to look at everything that the state is required to prove in order to present an argument as to why I don't have to prove my client didn't do it. Now, remember, as a defense attorney, I don't have to prove that my client didn't do it. And another thing we have to remember, it's not about whether the person did it or whether they didn't do it, because as an attorney, you don't really know the truth with an absolute certainty. You may feel somebody's guilty, but lo and behold, the truth is that they aren't guilty, and vice versa, because you weren't actually physically there. So the only thing that really matters, and also every client is going to say they didn't do it, but what really matters is the evidence. It's not about you coming in my office and telling me that you didn't do it. It's about, what does the evidence say? Does the evidence make it look like you did it? Because if it does, then that means, according to the law, you can get convicted for this because of how the evidence looks. So it's not about whether somebody did something or whether they didn't do it, because innocent people get convicted all the time and guilty people get released some of the time. So what we have to really look at is the elements. Hey, Donnie, you still with me?
I'm right here. No, I'm right here. I was gonna read this super chat, but it's Sakir. It's kind of off topic, but I know when you I guess if people post bond, I mean, people could put their houses up. Am I correct?
Well, we'll get to bond, and Romania has a very interesting quote unquote bond system, and bond is different in every country, every county, every state. But we'll get to that in just a second. But the first charge that he's alleged, Mr. Tate, is RAPE, Article 218, Paragraph 1 of the Romanian Criminal Code. So the first element is that there has to be sexual intercourse, oral or anal, committed by constraint, by rendering the person in question unable to defend themselves or express their will by taking advantage of such state. And basically, you can be punished by 3 to 10 years of imprisonment, and you lose certain rights. So now you see that there has to be some sort of intercourse, oral, anal, or otherwise. Committed by constraint, meaning you restricted the person physically, or you put them in a position where they just couldn't defend themselves, and you took advantage of you putting them in that state. So that's the first element. So the first thing is, well, was there any force? Right? We still need to know more information about the alleged victim and the facts surrounding the alleged victim. But what they're doing is in Romania, they can arrest you. They have 24 hours to go before a judge and prove that they should hold you for at least 30 days. And every 30 days, you can challenge this. So now what they potentially...
If I can interject real quick, I think
Go ahead.
they're going to keep them for another 30 days now.
Yeah, they have 6 more times to do that, basically, because they have 180 days that they can hold you while they do an investigation. So it's like being held without the indictment from the grand jury. In Georgia, in Georgia, for example, you have 90 days where the state can hold you without actually indicting you. And you automatically get a bail after 90 days. In Romania, it's 180 days.
Wow.
So they can hold you for 180 days while they continue to do an investigation. And eventually what they'll have to do is within that 180 days while they're detaining you, they're technically not putting you in prison. They're just detaining you. So in those 180 days where they could potentially detain you, they go before a judge and they bring information before that judge and say, hey, look, judge, is this enough to go to trial? The judge essentially acts as the grand jury would here in the United States. The grand jury changes the charges into they properly formally indict you, and they can indict you on more crimes. There is no grand jury and there is no jury over in Romania. It's essentially what we in the United States would call a bench trial, just a judge. So now the prosecution goes before the judge and they say, look at all this evidence. We should go ahead and indict this person. If you will. And the judge either says, no, go back, bring more evidence. This isn't enough to go to trial. Or the judge says, fine, let's go ahead and start this trial. And at that point, trials in Romania typically go between 1 to 3 years for this type of offense. So this is going to be a long process. This isn't going to be over anytime soon unless magically the prosecution just drops the charges. And I did a little bit of research into the prosecutor. And as any good attorney, defense attorney should do, you should research the opposing counsel, figure out what type of cases they've won, what type of cases they've lost, understand their pattern, understand them. So I went ahead and did some research into the Romanian DA, if you will, and he's one of the top guys because Romania, and here's the problem with Andrew Tate, is that he's in a country that's actively trying to fight the perception that they're a safe haven for human trafficking.
Right.
And so there are some serious Romanian mafia guys that are in the country that operate these large prostitution rings where some of the girls might not be there if they had other choices, if you understand what I'm trying to say.
Right.
So being that he's in a country that's really trying to actively fight this, and they have harsher laws on this than many other countries because it's like going through the crack epidemic and then Reagan shows up. You know, it's one of those type of situations. So he's very unlucky because he's in a country that's actively trying to fight the perception that they allow human trafficking. So they have one of their top DAs on this case. He actually has 24/7 state sanctioned security because he goes after human trafficking rings. So this guy's like the Michael Jordan of prosecutions.
Wow.
Unfortunately for Mr. Tate. So so the element first off is that there had to be some form of intercourse, and essentially it had to be in a way where the person was constraining, and that typically means maybe pinning someone down, choking somebody, doing those type of actions, or you put somebody in a position where they're unable to defend themselves or express their will to not be taken advantage of, and you take advantage of that. Now, that's a little bit more open to interpretation. It's like, what exactly does that mean? Is that economic exploitation? What exactly does that mean? So normally you'd look at case law to figure out, okay, what do they mean by that? Now, there are other articles that deal when the person is under a certain age, but here we're dealing with this particular charge, and we see the elements. Now, another thing the Romanian government is doing is they're still conducting an investigation. So we don't know for sure if they've come to a total conclusion. We're still waiting for the evidence. They have 180 days to put something together, or else they have to, I believe, under Romanian law, allow the person to go on their own until they bring those charges. But we'll go down to the next charge here.
I think to teach him a lesson, they might just keep him in there for the whole 180.
Well, you have to realize this too. One of the problems is that I don't know if you're familiar with his content, but I have been researching
I'm
some.
very familiar. I'm familiar with it.
Okay, well, he's one of the people where, let's say, I treated this as if he was one of my clients.
Right.
Whenever you have a celebrity client, you have to do Google searches and you have to spend hours of not sleeping and binge watching their content to understand who they are and what type of potential enemies they may have. Because certain content will have people, when you pass away, they'll be ready to twerk on your grave.
Right.
You know, God bless the dead.
Right.
But certain people, we live in an era where we prioritize how people feel about your message rather than the truth contained in your message. So now if you get on social media or anything like that, and you move in a certain manner where people are hurt, people are not going to internalize any of the truth that you said. They're simply going to attack you personally because they feel, well, if I can discredit you, I don't have to accept the truth, even if it's the truth. So that's just something to understand. We can complain about it, but until we're ready to change that environment, you speaking the truth on certain issues is just not allowed. So now turning to human trafficking, we see articles 2010 and 2011, which criminalize sex trafficking and labor trafficking with prescribed penalties of 3 to 10 years. So now we already see that the charge above was holding a 10-year maximum. This charge also is holding a 10-year maximum. And then the other charge holds, I believe, 1 to 3 years. So if he gets the maximum, if he gets the minimum, 3 to 5, maybe 7 years, 6 years, he could potentially be out. If he gets the maximum on all these charges and he's not able to defeat them, maybe 20, 21 years would be the maximum that he's looking at if these are all stacked on top of each other. So we have human trafficking, and under the Romanian code, you human traffic if the recruitment, transportation, transfer, housing, reception of a person for the purpose of exploitation committed by constraint, kidnapping, misleading, or abuse of authority. See, now what you really have to look at when you look at a statute, you don't look at the obvious words: transfer, housing, reception. Those are all pretty open or pretty close to interpretation. Now, when you look at something like misleading or abusive authority, by taking advantage of the impossibility of defending or expressing the will or the apparent vulnerability of the person, it's like, wait a minute, you just opened this thing up a lot more. Because what does it mean by abusing authority? What exactly is an authority figure? What exactly is abuse? Abuse is one of those terms where it gets thrown around so much that do we really know what the meaning of abuse is?
Right.
Because there was a time when growing up, if you were disciplined a certain way because they understood that you come from a certain community where you already have one strike against you, and there's a whole system ready to house you with an orange jumpsuit. So certain fathers may be very tough on their children because, hey, if I'm not tough on you and you don't understand discipline, you get out into the real world, someone with blue and red lights and a badge is going to show you what that really means to violate the law. They might call that type of parenting abusive. But You see here, misleading or abusing authority. So this now opens it up to, I believe, that's the provision under which they're going to try and come after Mr. Tate. And once again, we see 3 to 10 years here. And then they also throw in the consent of the victim of trafficking is not justifiable. Well, meaning that even if the person shows up and says, you know what, I wasn't trafficked, I voluntarily engaged in this, what they're essentially saying is that you have such a grip over the person that we understand that you're in control of their mind.
Wow.
So they might even have Stockholm syndrome. If they show up to court and say, I consented, we're going to say, no, that doesn't count. You know, so you have to read these statutes carefully so you really understand. Then you can potentially go into the legislative notes, but that's another level. Depends on how much time you're going to spend on the actual case. Now, lastly, what they've come at Mr. Tate with is it's essentially RICO. And if you remember, RICO is Racketeer Influenced Corrupt Organization Act, RICO. It came up in America in order to take down anybody that can set up a criminal enterprise. A criminal enterprise is essentially when you and another person set up an organization. Thank you. Set up an organization for the purpose of committing crimes. So we see here that the Organized Crime and Terrorism Investigation Directorate, but in Romanian, DIICO, and the Department for Combating Organized Crime are responsible for these trafficking cases. Now, here's the very serious provision, even though it carries the least amount of time. They're essentially trying to say that Andrew Tate, his brother, and 2 other women were essentially running an organized criminal enterprise. And they alleged that Mr. Tate was doing something called the lover boy style, him and his brother. And that's what they actually call it, lover boy, where you lure women in with the promise of a relationship, and then the next thing they know, they're working the track. And if you understand some of the those who were in that life,
Right, that's what they would do.
That's what they would do. So now in some places, they don't criminalize this. It's just a part of the game. If your boyfriend has you out here on some hustle and flow type stuff, that's just what it is. It's not an additional crime for how he got you or she got you into the life. It's just how they got you into the life. Now, there may be crimes that arise from that person being in the life, but how isn't necessarily as important. However, in Romania, due to the perception of them trying to actually fight human trafficking, and they're trying to lean more towards Western Europe, and they're trying to partner more with Western Europe. So the big push is to get everything up to Western European standards for some of the Eastern European countries that want to economically be more tied into their Western neighbors, to more wealthier Western neighbors, should I add. So Romania is one of those places that criminalize the quote-unquote lover boy, where you make a woman believe that she's into you, and then the next minute something strange for some change is occurring, as they colloquially say. So now we look at this, the elements. An organized crime group is a structured group formed of 3 or more persons that exists for the period of time and acts in coordinated manner to the purpose of committing 1 or more grave offenses. So now this already starts to mirror RICO, where you say 2 or more people conspire to commit crimes over a certain amount of time, over a certain amount of frequency. Therefore, that's criminal enterprise. Here, they essentially said it's 3 or more. Now, it's interesting how Andrew Tate, his brother, and 2 other women who lived in the compound, the house, their headquarters, they brought them all in, right? Because now you have that perfect number. And also, too, just as a side note, if you want to make a group crack, what you do is you arrest the men and the women, and you treat them equal.
Right, somebody's gonna rat.
You put the women in there. You tell them they might be in jail for 180 days. They're like, look.
Well, you can't really say that, Ebube, because when these, you're a criminal attorney. The men be snitching quick too.
Well, here's the thing. What happens is that what they're going to do is they're going to approach the women with the deals first.
Okay.
That's just how it goes. If a man and a woman get locked up, the person they're going to offer the deals to turn to first is the woman. They typically give her, it's ladies first. They give her the chance to say, hey, look, go ahead and snitch on this guy over. Go ahead and snitch on Michael. Go ahead and snitch on him. We know it wasn't you. We know he pulled you into everything. Give us everything we'll make it easy on you. They first approach the woman before they go to the man to tell him to snitch on the woman. So now they have 2 women that were involved, and so it's going to be interesting to see how that dynamic plays out and whether they're able to potentially have them turn state's evidence. I'm highlighting that dynamic because I'm just saying that that's something to watch. And prosecutors and detectives, they're not foolish in how they make their arrests. Sometimes they'll arrest people knowing that you don't really have much to do with this, but you might have some information. So now we're going to arrest you and we're going to treat you like everybody else. But we know deep down inside that you weren't the ringleader, but we know you might have knowledge. And if we give you enough charges and we let you sit in detention long enough, your mind is going to start coming up with some ideas, and we as the prosecution might like those ideas. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
So that's typically why they might want to include the women in this, knowing that they probably weren't the masterminds behind having all these cam girls working for this company. They were probably just following orders.
Now, you know, in the past, he's had issues, or he's been accused of similar crimes before.
Well, I will get to that. Yes, sir. I'm going to get to that at the very bottom, because whenever you defend a celebrity client, and it's only certain types of attorneys that can defend celebrity clients, you have to do your own investigation into the person, both private and public. You have to hire your own private investigators who are going to dig deep into the person's background and give you all the information that they're not telling you. You're also going to have to do, see who they are on social media, because you might run into a rapper. He has 1.2 million followers. You never heard of the guy. And now he's your client. You're like, oh, wow, you're famous. Like, I didn't know till I Googled you. I'm just not in that generation. So what you have to do is you have to essentially, dive into the person, figure out their history, figure out if they have anything from their history that might come back to them. You never know when someone tries to set you up for the good old Bill Cosby, where people are talking about things you did 30 years ago, which is very difficult to defend as a defense attorney.
Right.
So now you have the organized crime statute, and you have a list of enumerated offenses, which could basically get you pulled into a RICO-like offense. So you have homicide, second-degree murder, first-degree murder, illegal deprivation of freedom, slavery, blackmail, offenses against patrimony, offenses regarding trespassing, regulations regarding weapons and ammunition and explosive substances, nuclear substances, coinage forgery, smuggling, offenses committed through digital communications of systems and networks, human trafficking, organs trafficking. So now anytime that, you have three or more people that come together to create a criminal enterprise that's going to engage in any one of these things, you essentially have the RICO going on. In this country, they just call it organized crime. That would be their RICO. And the Organized Crime and Terrorism Investigation Directorate is who investigates that.
Hey, speaking of RICO, we got to do another show, me and you on. This is kind of off topic. I don't know what the hell was going on that day. Did you see when dude passed dope to?
Yeah, and they're really trying Judge Glam. They're really trying that judge right now. I don't know what that was. In all my years of practice, I've never even seen anything like that. Was 100% ridiculous. You know how, first off, in the courtroom, whenever you walk into the courtroom, just treat it like you're walking into a police station. You have 50 officers in there, right? You have cameras everywhere. You have judges who can send everybody in the courtroom into jail that very day. That's not the place to go and commit crimes on camera.
What the fuck? Like, dude, I'm like, this can't be real.
Someone was like, Atlanta isn't a real place. I was like, trust me, that's not Atlanta. That's somewhere else.
No, but go ahead, man. We gotta do a separate show on that. Like, he really tried.
That was I just, but Young Thug was smart. He said, hey, look, this person put this thing in my hand. I don't know what this is. Come get this. Right? If he would have been stupid and tried to throw it in his mouth or whatever they do with those type of substances, that would have been very foolish. He gave it up. He said, I had no part in this. This guy came over and put it in my hand. Smart. But so like I said, if you defend a celebrity, and Andrew Tate would qualify as a celebrity, the first thing you have to do is you have to look into their past. to see, okay, this person's a celebrity, which means that their trial.
I got a shout out to O'Shea Duke Jackson. Thank you so much, brother, for super chat. And O'Shea, you are completely right. Aunt Nam is more than what you give it. Thank you, O'Shea. It's more than what you give it, Aunt Nam. So thank you, O'Shea. Appreciate you for super chat. All right, go ahead, Ebube.
Shout outs to O'Shea Duke Jackson. You're always coming with quality content, always able to evolve and stay with things. Shout outs to O'Shea. You're one of the guys that's going to be around for a long time. But when it comes to potential evidence, this is one of the things that you have to look up, because at the end of the day, if you have a famous client, you just know that there are things from this person's past that people may see, oh, this person is in current legal troubles. Let me go ahead and stack on and add on to this. And remember, it's not about whether or not you did the crime, because you can be innocent and get convicted. I tell my clients that. You can be innocent and get convicted. I, as your attorney, I wasn't there. I'm only reading over the evidence and looking at the evidence. You tell me you didn't do it, cool. I'm going to look through the evidence and find everything that supports your theory, because you wouldn't come in here and lie to me. But how do I know? I don't know. So it's not about whether they did it or they didn't, because as a lawyer, I will never have absolute certainty either way. The only thing I can be certain about is the evidence. So what you have to do as an attorney is you have to find all the evidence, good or bad. You go out and you look for evidence, because evidence is what actually speaks to the jury, what actually speaks to the judge. If there's a videotape of you going on a mass shooting, God forbid, but there's a videotape of you doing that, and you come in and tell me that, oh, they picked up the wrong person, and I play the tape, we're both going to look stupid if I go in court and open my mouth and say, well, this person didn't do it, and then they play the tape. I'm losing all credibility.
All right.
What you as an attorney, you have to do is you have to look at the evidence. That's the most important thing. Past and present, even things that can't come in. Because in a trial, there's something called the rules of evidence. The rules of evidence prevent certain things from coming in. So the law, in a way, protects you. They can't just say, well, person A is a bad person. Look at all the bad stuff they've done in the past. Therefore, person A needs to be convicted today because they're a bad person. And we all know they probably did it because they're a bad person. You can't convict somebody on that. However, you can bring up bad acts to show maybe modus operandi, pattern. You can show that this person wears a Nixon mask and runs up in places with a Desert Eagle while wearing the Nixon mask and robs banks. And we found this Nixon mask in his trunk, and there are 6 other types of incidents like this. Therefore, we're going to connect these because this person is running around with a Richard Nixon mask and a Desert Eagle. So there are some situations where certain evidence can come in. There are certain situations where certain evidence cannot come in. Me as a defense attorney, I'm going to fight for the evidence that looks bad. I'm going to fight for that not to come in, because that might make the jury think that you're guilty if you're not guilty. So what you do whenever you have a celebrity client is that you look at potential evidence. Now, one of the first things that we see here is we see this. All right, I'm going to read it out, but it's a text message from, I believe, a girl in the UK that alleged that he violated her. So what do you get from me hating it? Because I'm and the response is because I'm a terrible person. Mr. Effing Nice, yeah. I love raping you and watching you let me while still debating if it's a good idea or not. I like the conflict you have. And you do have it. Don't deny it. Response makes you feel powerful, ? Now, me as a defense attorney, I'm going to look at this and say, what's going on? First off, is this real? I hope it's not real, because why would you type this and send this to somebody? You have to remember that anytime you send a text message or an email to somebody, that's theirs forever to do what they want with it. Now, if you were feeling a certain type of way and you expressed that at that particular time, that's locked in forever. And it's like apologizing through text is never a good idea, because let's say you apologize for something and then the other person takes the text and said, okay, this person did something really bad to me. Here's where they apologized. So something as benign as an apology for showing up 15 minutes late to dinner can be turned into something else. Talk less of you saying this type of thing. And even if this is something that you and the person that you engage in these type of behaviors gets down with, you still don't want to send these type of things because they could be potentially taken out of context. Now, this isn't directly from this case. It's from another case, but it doesn't matter because people don't look at it like that. They don't contextualize. They say, oh, well, this is what this person sends out. He probably did anything else that they allege. And so when we scroll down and we see a continuation of the conversation, it says, I don't think so. Well, and the response is, well, you can say it, then not see me. Andrew, you're not stupid. Why would I talk to you if I didn't want to see you? So now at the same time, if I'm the defense attorney, I'm like, wait a minute, maybe this is something that they just do, because his next response is, so you agree to my RAPE, control, and all that I do to you. Good. And then she responds, if I consent, then it's not RAPE. So it's one of these things where it's like, is this just some sick kink that these people are into?
Yep.
And if it is, then why are you even sending these type of text messages? Because if you're famous enough, this type of information is going to come out, especially if you're dealing with people who aren't famous.
Oh, you
Now,
know,
if
I got a quick question for you, Ebube. Sorry. And I'm
all
not
yours.
gonna forget. Since Andrew Tate is a U.S. citizen and he's a U.K. citizen, well, I don't know if he's a U.K. citizen, but for sure he's a U.S. citizen. So I guess one of the people who he allegedly RAPE'd is American. Is there any way he could possibly be extradited to America and try it here?
And that's the thing. See, right now they're doing their investigation. Because Romania is funny. They can detain you during the investigation. And that's exactly what they're doing to Mr. Tate, his brother, and the two women that they're detaining as being part of this criminal organization. So they're doing an investigation. So now let's say at the end of the investigation, that's the conclusion that they come to. That might open the door for other charges. The same way state charges can open the door for federal charges. The same way this particular trial, you might get arrested that same day and taken to a whole nother courtroom for another set of trial charges based on what came out at that trial. So the answer is yes. However, it depends on what actually comes out. We're still waiting for all this evidence because they have 3 very weighty charges that at the maximum can put Mr. Tate, his brother, and the 2 women away for 21 if they all stack them, as opposed to running concurrent 21 years. Now, the 2 women, because once again, it's a criminal enterprise, so they can allege that everybody's in the criminal enterprise. So I believe that was 1 to 3, 1 to 5 years. So those girls, they can tell them, hey, look, for hanging around with Andrew Tate and his brother, you might serve 5 years. They might not be able to get them on the human trafficking. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. That's an additional potential 10 years. They can tell them, hey, here's 15 years. Unless you testify against Mr. Tate and his brother. Right? And who knows what's going to come out if they start talking. See, this is how you have to think as a defense attorney. You don't think of what will happen. You think of, okay, it's like a chess game. It's like Connect 4. If I do this, then this. If this evidence is here, then this or this. This evidence is going to mean something. How are they going to play this evidence? So now there's rules of evidence as to what can come in and what can't come in, but then there's a court of public opinion. If the jury pool has seen these tweets and this kind of stuff, and then they get selected, they might say, sure, I can be neutral. But then they're like, hey, this is the guy that sent the RAPE texts. Now they're saying that he's into that. I can kind of believe that. You know, whether that's right or whether that's not right, that's just how things work. But anyway, so now we also have, I didn't want to play it. It was a bit much. Now there's also a little bit of controversy as to whether or not this is an AI voice or if it's his actual real voice. But in either event, why would you be, let me not say dumb enough, but why would you send a voice message stating some of the things that this guy was stating in the voice message?
Right.
You have to remember, and everybody's heard this, but as a defense attorney, if they can authenticate that and prove it's your voice, if that plays before a jury, if they're able to get this evidence in and have it play in front of a jury of people, they're going to come to one conclusion about you. Now, is that right? Is that wrong? It doesn't matter. It's what it is. So you have to look at potential evidence? Are they going to be able to bring in these WhatsApp calls, right? Now, the defense might be able to allege that, hey, these can't come in. These are from a separate incident. They have nothing to do. The prosecution might allege, hey, this is a pattern that this person has. This is a thing that they engage in. They go state to state. They move around. They change countries in order to engage in this very same practice. I can just see the DA saying that. I can close my eyes and see the DA standing up in front of 12 people telling them that this is what my client engages in as a pattern of behavior. So now we have certain voice notes, and who knows what other elements and evidence may come out. Lastly, we have Mr. Tate actually going, I believe there was a Vox documentary, and actually going out and being very vocal. And he has to remember that he's in the same situation as Young Thug. What you say in your records can and will be used against you. Just because you said it to a beat, or you said it in front of DJ Vlad, or you said it in front of Piers Morgan, or you said it on TikTok or Twitter, doesn't mean that they can't use that against you in trying to paint you as a monster. And really, if they paint him as a monster, they've essentially won. If they paint him as the monster and say, look how extreme his words are.
Right.
Look at the belief this isn't a character, this is actually him. He's essentially admitting to all the crimes. Some of the things he says, as a man, you understand where he's being a little bit hyperbolic and doing it for entertainment and shock value. But if you don't understand that dichotomy, you might just say this person's just the monster. Listen to what he's saying. He wouldn't say it if he didn't believe it. And also, the potential that we have is we have the problem for what we call the stack up, where because he's a successful man and it's publicly noted, in other words, he has fame, there might be people who pop up and say, well, imagine how many girls, you have to realize he's 6'4", 6'5", he has a beard, he's well built, he's a confident man, he has resources. He's the type of man that a lot of women may naturally physically be attracted to. So there might be a high probability that he has a lot of women who are indeed attracted to him and who have spent time with him, and maybe they didn't get as far as they thought they would with him. Maybe they expected commitment and they got something very different. So now they might say, well, you know what? I'm a victim too.
Hey, you know what, Ebube, I'm listening to the it's called Undisputed. Undisputed. It's it's autobiography of Mike Tyson. I'm listening to that right now. And if you will just, man, if you can only imagine all the BS and frivolous lawsuits that were brought up against him that he talks about in this book, I'm like, oh man, I can just only imagine.
Bro, I'm a criminal defense attorney.
Right.
The type of calls I get, I'm just like, wow. And I always tell brothers, unfortunately, we live in a certain era where you get a certain amount of fame and notoriety. You really have to treat women very well. You really have to treat women very well. If you understand what I'm saying, you understand what I'm saying.
Right.
You can't make enemies of women. You can't do that. Even if you have the ability to in this country, you can't make a habit of doing that because you have enough scorned women. You leave a trail of scorned women, you're only potentially increasing your problems. You have to treat women with a certain level of respect, or else they'll demand that respect in a very harsh manner.
By any means necessary.
So you want to beat them to the jump, and if you have any type of status or fame, go out of your way to be very respectful. Go out of your way to, even if it ends, to put it in a position where your name can't be sullied. And so when we see here Andrew Tate's accusers, plural, speak, this only has a domino effect because I'm sure there are probably hundreds of women that he dealt with. And even if 1% of them are upset with him, 1%, that's still a problem. Let's say 10%. And think of how many of your exes might not be favorable of you. It's 50-50. So the more of these type of interactions that you have, the more you increase the likelihood of a Bill Cosby situation where people are, maybe they're making things up, maybe they're not. We don't know because we weren't there, and they're describing something from 20 years ago, where even the best preservation of evidence wouldn't even have mattered because there's simply no evidence. All we have is a story, and all we have is a social climate. So if this story is believed, brother, good luck. Good luck. You're going in trial against somebody who has a story in a climate where certain stories are believed, whether they're true or not. You can tell me about how unfair it is, but until you're ready to actually tip the scales and potentially change laws and whatever else, you can complain till you're blue in the face. But once you achieve a certain level of fame and notoriety, you really have to go out of your way to treat women nicely. And that's putting it mildly if you're going to engage in certain activities. But yeah. So hey Don, let's go back to camming up.
Okay, are we done? Let me are we done with the presentation? We could
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So we'll take a quick commercial break and then we'll open up the lines. Is that cool?
Let's do that.
Okay.
Alexis here, coming to you with an awesome sale of 25% off when you use promo code OHURU25 at alexisfowler.com. And I provide services like digital art, logo designs, packaging designs, web designs, social media flyers, and much more. If you're an entrepreneur with a business or a startup company, make sure you take advantage of this opportunity, getting 25% off when you use promo code OHURU25 at alexisfowler.com.
At the Okoli Law Group, we specialize in producing justice. If you or a loved one in the Atlanta metro area is facing serious criminal charges, then you need serious legal representation.
The Okoli Law Group is here for you. The Okoli Law Group is here for us.
The Okoli Law Group. Serious legal representation.
Learn the ins and outs of IT and launch your IT career in just a matter of weeks with the help of Lifting the Veil IT Academy.
I took Lifting the Veil Academy with some. Took a while, but I'm here. I made it. I'm now an SSRS developer. I started on the 13th, making a rate of $48 an hour.
Sign up for a free consultation and see where this industry could take you.
To learn more, go to www.ltvacademy.com. That's www.ltvacademy.com.
All right, guys. Link is in the chat room. If you want to call in and add to the conversation, click on the link and you can call in and add to the conversation. Again, link is in the chat room. If you want to call in and add to the conversation, please click on that link and call in. All right. 50 Cent said he makes women sign a account for this. Oh, here goes Gas Them Up. Let's bring that. Gas Them Up. Go ahead.
Gas them up, my Isoko guy, man. Alpha.
Hey, my guy, Alpha, how you did?
I'm on them. I did.
Dynast, wait a minute. You got 3 Nigerians on the pedal, man.
I know, right?
The palm wine. You got to start playing some Osadeba in the background. You know what I'm saying? But no, excellent presentation, man, as always. Excellent research. You guys definitely got to check out Ebube's platform. He does a great job, especially on the geopolitical side of things, especially looking at Romanian law. You know, a lot of people don't know the differences in the legal systems in each country, right? Some are like with I believe with the young ladies, Dynast, I don't know if you guys, I haven't heard much of what's going to happen with the young ladies who beat that girl to death in Mexico. Allegedly, right?
That kind of, okay, so Gas Them Up. You have that case, and then you have the case with the sister back in Connecticut early last year who got killed by the
white guy. Yes, yes.
Killed by the white guy, but she took some pills and I guess OD'd. I'm sorry. We don't know.
No, yeah, we don't know. That's why I said allegedly. I don't want your platform.
I'm sorry. We don't know what happened. Allegedly, trying to blame the white guy, but nobody knows. That case kind of disappeared too.
Man, there's so many cases in this country. I mean, I was just remembering the young man who was in the Bronx and the police ran in his house and killed him in the bathroom. There's just so many cases. They just the other young black guy who got found rolled up in a gym thing, and his organs were missing, but they were saying now it's not missing. They just kind of ruled that case is like, nothing happened really. So,
Right.
This stuff is just.
But I was thinking about the girl who, passed away in the presence of the white guy.
Yeah. It's
it's weird because Cardi B and all these people came out. So then I guess they started investigating the white guy. Then the case just disappeared. Same thing with the sister in Cancun. They were talking about extraditing those girls to, I'm not Cancun, but Tulum, wherever they're at. They're talking about extraditing those girls from North Carolina to Mexico, but then it just kind of just.
Yeah, no, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. But I just wanted to say, like, I think Ebube's last point about with women, and once you hit a certain level, it's unfortunate. I think, particularly in America, it's rather unfortunate. I think that was why he was trying to run towards the Islamic countries to get acceptance. When you look at what Tate was doing, he's going to Dubai. He was trying to embrace Islam because they're a little bit more patriarchal in their leaning. So I think that was his play. But
I would say his biggest mistake was what he was basically doing for money. Like he didn't make most of his money doing Big Brother, the reality TV stuff. He didn't make most of his money doing kickboxing. What he essentially set up was like a call center, but instead of these people doing customer service, they were doing like OnlyFans, and they were being cam girls. So he was somebody who a lot of women were attracted to, and he told all the women that were kind of attracted to him, "Hey, come here, I have a business model for you." And then he broke it down for them. Some of them left. Some of them were like, "All right, I'll do this." And somewhere along the line, allegedly, some of the girls felt that they couldn't leave that situation. So his problem was that whenever you set up that type of industry where you have cam girls or you're using women as the economic engine for what you're doing, and you're selling graphic material, the minute that they feel they can't leave is the minute you're going to have serious problems. Remember that his problems initially started in April 2022 when a relative of one of the girls that worked for him called and said that my cousin can't leave this compound. I'm being denied access to her. She's not able to leave, and she's a U.S. citizen. So we called the embassy. And anytime you deal with a U.S. citizen and you're trafficking human trafficking in American citizens, you've crossed the line. Now, other embassies, they might have been a little bit more relaxed, but anytime you're dealing with good old US of A and you're trafficking, quote unquote, an American citizen in a foreign land, the embassy is definitely going to have the local authorities move on you. And that was his first mistake. And that was kind of the domino that started to take him down. So
he like you said, he put himself in I don't know why he exposed that, but also his whole background with his dad, the mom, they scream possible intelligence agency, and he admits that his dad was intelligence. So I think that's also something that
his dad was intelligence. I know his dad was a world champion chess player, but
his dad was in the CIA.
Really?
Well, the thing is, look, if his dad has CIA connects, he better activate them right now because he's 21 years in a Romanian prison.
Well, I think he, unfortunately, I think what he should have done, but again, everything's hindsight, and he's way more successful than me financially, but that doesn't mean anything. I don't care about that. But I think personally, like you said, you hit a certain level of status. If you're not in a non-Western space, you shouldn't, because they'll set you up, right? Like, that girl could have just been set in there. That person could have, you got to be careful when you hit a certain level and you don't know who's looking to bring you down. That's why, Ebube and guys like him get very successful. You start looking at these, these estate planning and all of them have like 3-4 lawyers. They got some of the the best, legal firms, Winston and Strawn and all these guys, all behind them nonstop, because you just don't know who's going to bring you down.
That's the let me throw something in there. We kind of live in like something like the inverse of the Salem witch trials. I'm not sure if you've heard of the Salem witch trials.
Oh yeah, very, very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, what would happen in those days is if this is when the Europeans had initially come over, and they had come over with a very strict interpretation of their particular belief system, and there was still a belief in witchcraft. And so one of these European settlers, let's say they would get upset with their wife, she was just mouthing off or something, or some trivial reason, he would go to the church and say, you know what, Father, I think my wife is a witch. And all it took was for him to say that. And, they would bring her and they would say, okay, Margaret Ann, you have to prove that you're not a witch. And that she would have to prove that she's not a witch. They would tie her legs behind her back and her arms behind her back, and they would tie them together. So she would essentially be folded backwards.
Yep, trial of suffering.
Then they would throw her into the water. And if she drowned, that would mean she wasn't a witch. And that would mean she died pure and we can respect her. If she somehow managed to live, that means she's a witch and we'll burn her at the stake alive. Right? And so the accusation that, wait a minute, you're a witch, when these Europeans came over making these crazy accusations against their women, now we live in kind of the backlash era of that. And all men are catching the backlash of that, where in order to prevent the gross miscarriage of justice that was the Salem witch trials, we've now come to a point where it's almost the inverse, where if somebody said, well, you harm a particular demographic of society, well, you're instantly the bad guy. Regardless of if the evidence points in the other direction, it doesn't matter. It's like the Salem witch trials. So if we understand that this is the environment that we live and operate in, it would be very foolish to get on the internet and start talking, even if you're saying the truth, even if when we hear it, we're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Your delivery, if you have to realize that people prioritize feelings over the truth. So even if you're telling somebody the truth, if they feel a certain way about what you're saying, that's the problem in and of itself. So now if we understand that that's the environment, either we have to change the environment or evolve to the environment. There's no two ways about it. And a lot of brothers are kind of in the middle where it's like, well, I don't want to change the environment. I don't want to change the laws, the rules, or anything. And I don't really want to have to evolve to understand that you have to move like this because we're in a chessboard. Well, then you get stuck where Andrew Tate is stuck, where you've made a lot of people, especially in the mainstream, upset with you, and they can't wait on your downfall. They don't know you. They've never seen an episode or a broadcast, and they hate you. And this is just the new reality that we live in. But well, I guess not the floor.
Listen, you've hit it on the head. It's a history of it. I mean, even before Salem, they were burning witches in Europe. Even a contemporary McCarthyism, right? Du Bois was a victim of that. That's why he ran to Africa and thereby proving Garvey correct, right? That at the end of the day, Africa is home. So we're seeing this. I think, and that's why I always push back when people try to remove anonymity on these YouTube platforms, because I think at the end of the day, other than something like extremely egregious, I don't think I should be concerned with what a person does in their personal life or who they are personally, and their message should just be the message. I don't need to, inspect you. And again, other than something egregious where you're inciting like people to do terrible things, and of course there's a fine line, but I think we should learn to respect people's anonymity. I always say that all the time on your show, Dynast. I say, you got grown adults more worried about, what some other man is doing online, and they're not worried about what finger, or what hole their dentist had his finger in before he did the procedure on their mouth. And it's like, they don't care about that. And it's like, no, you should be worried. Like, is your dentist the deviant? You hear what I'm saying? Like, that should be something on your mind. Is your doctor, of sound body and mind before they're performing procedures on you. You guys should, not you personally, but people in the chat, you should Google how many times doctors have actually left instruments inside people's bodies with these hospital malpractice cases. You guys should Google this stuff. So, some of the doctors are not even of sound, competency, and they're operating on people, but no one's worried about that. You're worried about what some guy named Andrew Tate said online, and who cares? But like you said, I think he was kicking the hornet's nest. He was antagonizing the standard dogma. And if you're going to go about it, I think there are different ways. Comedians kind of have like a license to do that. Maybe he could have went the comedic route. Like Dave Chappelle, right? Like he said some stuff against certain communities, whereas comparing him to the baby got canceled right away, right? But Dave Chappelle, he said these things, but because he's a comedian, he's able to get away with it. So I think you got to figure out a way to still be able to express yourself. But once you become a public figure, I don't think it makes sense. Yeah.
He has kind of disappeared.
Say that again?
Maybe he's kind of disappeared.
Oh, he's done. He's done. You get what I'm saying? Like he's done. They're not going to let him enjoy the fruits of whatever. So I hope he invested well. I hope he had some sort of LLC, S Corp, C Corp, and put his money in the right places and 401k and all that good stuff. And he bought some property and he's doing some things because they're going to come for him. Hopefully he might be able to do like Flo Rida and just switch to dance music and maybe connect with some Afrobeat guys so he can globally tour instead of just relying on America. But he's done. So it just, I think like Ebube said, once you become public, you got to realize that most of the people who are consumers are women, and women don't want to be offended, regardless of if it's true or not. So you have to understand that that's mainstream. Soccer moms are mainstream. If the soccer mom is going to cringe at what you're saying and you're a public figure, don't say it. But now to combat, like what Ebube was saying about adapting to this new system, I think we need to respect people's anonymity. We don't have to always, expose people. Like if you want to meet somebody, reach out to them, get to know them on a one level. But trying to always get with these exposés on YouTube, I mean, we're seeing it. We're seeing with what happened. She's public, but like with Tasha K, right? You play with these people, they're gonna be very, very unfair, and they're connected. The judges are their friends, or they're labeled as friends with the judges. All this type of stuff, we just got to be very careful, in my opinion. But I'm going to drop off. Listen, Diane, it's always a pleasure. Ebube, keep doing the good work. My elder, wisdom never sleeps. Baba, drop that knowledge. I'll talk to you guys later.
You take care, brother.
All right, wisdom never sleeps. Go ahead.
Hey, nephew, how are you?
I'm great, brother. How you doing? I'm great. How you doing, man?
I'm always great. Follow up on something that Gasimov just said about the dentists and stuff. When I was in high school, our quarterback father was a dentist. Later on, he ended up in prison because he was funneling a lot of his patients while they was under the anesthesia for certain things of all ages. So so he's right about that. Sometimes you just go all willy-nilly and just go in and just don't think about anything like that. Now, with that being said about the baby and Chappelle, you got to remember Chappelle now owns most of what he does because he walked away and now he does a lot of stuff in his backyard. Wherefore the baby was owned contractually. So he don't have that same platform to stand up and keep going like that. So that's why they can ruin you and run you off if you are more owned than you are owner. So Dave Chappelle it's hard for them to just come after him in any kind of way because he's just gonna come straight back because they don't own him any longer. That's the difference in the entertainment industry. So with Tate and all of that stuff, a lot of times, like you said, people are more interested in what a person is talking about. So you also have to understand that you have the big machine that has a narrative and a playbook that they must push through, and they're going to attack anybody that comes against it, especially a male that says direct things, like that. It's just like I just saw today where they says, oh, Aretha Franklin's song, Natural Woman, is against the transgender. I'm like, they are pushing so hard and so fast that you must understand there's a machine behind everything. But yes, it does bring business to defense attorneys and things like that. But there's a machine at work to silence any male that comes up against the narrative, period. And especially if you consider a black male because he has a black father. Now, I'm not saying I don't know all of what he does or did do or whatever. But when the eyes come against you, when they tried to first shut him down and cancel him, they found out they could not cancel him in a way financially because they couldn't find nothing he owned because he's already tied a lot of that up in trust and things. So then they come back. Now it's about the sexual trafficking and things like that. So it made him more desire to talk on everybody else's channel, even though they was trying to squash his channel. So they don't always come after you. In other words, so if he did something wrong, yes, go after him, take him down, whatever. But if it's just a machine in of itself, they're going to make sure that he done something wrong, if you understand. So that's all I'm saying. A lot of times we don't have to have opinions on everything, or we can just say what we say. But I don't get so invested in somebody else's life like that when they got millions and millions of dollars anyway, and I haven't got to that point yet. So I don't have to get invested, but it's also a learning tool that, you know, that you can watch for what went wrong, how can you do something different and yet still speak your way, and just learn from a lot of stuff and not so much get caught up that your life depends on it like a soap opera.
Yes, sir.
Sounds good.
Sure. Let's see here. We'll take. I'll put the link in the chat room. Any other callers will call in. If not, we'll go ahead and start closing out. Now, Ebube, do you think? I mean, you got your crystal ball, right? You think Andrew could get off?
Pause. Now, in regards,
pause. Yeah, pause.
In regards to all right. Now, remember the first thing that I'm going to speak as a criminal. If he was my client, the first thing you have to realize is that he has to make that peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Remember, peanut butter has to be there, jelly has to be there, 2 pieces of bread have to be there. The first thing you do is, if there are no enumerated offenses, is you look at the elements and say, okay, listen. Yeah, I might have transported women for these purposes, but it was never against their will. I didn't abuse authority. I didn't physically. Remember, they told you what qualifies as the crime. Physically doing this, abusing authority. You would say, I didn't do any of those things. I merely gave them an opportunity and they took advantage of it. And if it went bad and they're upset, then that's their business, but that's not a crime, right? You would come at it from that perspective and you dismantle the elements. Any good attorney knows that the only way to win is to dismantle the elements. It's like me saying, listen, you know, you got caught with a sandwich, but there's no peanut butter in that sandwich. It's merely jam and almond butter. It's not jam and peanut butter. The law says jam, peanut butter, bread, PB&J. This is almond butter. This is something different. Therefore, this law doesn't apply to my client, right? So, and the thing is, you know, the trial's going to take 1 to 3 years unless they take a plea and essentially apologize and acknowledge their crimes. But I really don't see Andrew Tate taking any type of plea deal. I see him fighting this. That seems more consistent with his character. Like I said, if I was his attorney, I'd be preparing for battle. I'd have a good defense for him, because at the end of the day, if he was my client, and from some of the things he says, it seems that, you know, maybe they did it voluntarily. The whole thing is this, right? Yeah, he ran a business where he was managing a bunch of cam girls, a bunch of girls that were selling explicit content. But the only crime occurs when it's against their will, right? So now you don't argue that you didn't have them, performing these acts because it was done over the internet. There's records of it. What you would argue is that, they did it on their own free will. They could come and go. The doors didn't have locks on them. You can unlock them from the inside and walk out. Whatever evidence he has is what you would argue. You would argue that they were free to come and go, because if they're free to come and go, this isn't a criminal organization. This is a legitimate business where this is OnlyFans type of work. This is what they're doing. They come in, they do their work, and then they go. If they want to leave and never come back, that's their business. That's their prerogative. They're allowed to do that. So that's essentially what you would argue if you were his attorney, and you would just hope that the other facts substantiate that narrative. Because if you have a bunch of women that come out and say the opposite to that narrative, and you have to remember in Romania, it's a bench trial, which means it's just a judge. It's just a judge and a prosecutor. And as a defense attorney, I always prefer a jury trial, because 9 times out of 10, the judge might have been a former DA. And, it's only natural for them to side with the DA who they can relate with, maybe. Who knows? If there's any implicit bias, you never know. This could be true. It might not be true. But I would just feel more comfortable. And this is just, just something I would feel more comfortable with, would be a jury trial. Because with a jury, it's laymen, people who don't necessarily understand the law, who don't understand elements. I can explain it to them, and they may be able to be more tabula rasa or more neutral, as opposed to a judge who's an expert in the law and may already come with his or her preconceived notions as to what the law actually represents. And and that's Romania. You don't have a jury, you have a judge. And with Andrew Tate's case, you have one of the top prosecutors, one of the top mafia prosecutors in Romania on this case. So this is not going to be an easy case. They got the nation's best prosecutor on it.
Hey, real quick, guys, I just wanted to play this video real quick. Then we'll let Ebube close out. I gotta play this, dude. I gotta play this. Hold on. I gotta play this video. Oh my goodness, man. Oh, hold on. Okay. Hold on. Hold on 1 second, guys. No. Here we go. Guys, give me 1 second. Come on, you're in the way. I got to play it.
While you queuing up, that's why you remember Michael Jackson said that's why he regrets settling that very first case, because it set him looking very bad no matter what he won later. So you're right, Ebube. Sometimes just don't settle.
A slew of RICO charges, but now there are new allegations against him and a fellow YSL defendant. Here's what happened. We got this video from court. Take a look at the part we highlighted here. Do you see this? Right there. According to court motions, Young Thug's fellow defendant, Khalif Adams, passed Percocet to Young Thug under the guise of a handshake right in front of the entire courtroom. Adams is serving a life sentence for murder. Now, right after what you see there in that video, court documents say that law enforcement immediately moved in to search Adams, who resisted. But once they searched him, the documents say they found more contraband, including Percocet, marijuana, and tobacco, all wrapped in plastic, and food seasonings to mask the smell. The court documents go on to say officers thought Adams swallowed even more contraband, so they rushed him to Grady Hospital. They say court had to be delayed for the rest of the day.
Yeah, the thing is,
come on.
The thing is this, like, I've been in that courthouse before. Shout out to Judge. It's a very fair judge. He's a great judge. I may be in front of him next month. So, but he's a good judge in that courtroom. And it's like, imagine if, first off, I show up to that courtroom, I have my client with me. They allowed him to put on a nice suit, not being in the jumper. And then I'm sitting there beside him, and some guy comes over and does a hand-to-hand. It's like, bro, do you want me off of this case or not? You know, like, if you had anything to do with this, I'm not going to represent you. Like, if you had anything to do with, I tell you, come sit beside me, because I believe that you're not that person that they're saying you are. Come sit beside me. I'm one of the best criminal defense attorneys in Atlanta, if not the best. Out of humility, I'll say one of the best. But you know when someone's good. And I see you do that? No, Your Honor, take me off this case. This person clearly isn't ready to be represented by Ebube Okoli. He doesn't deserve to have me on the record. Take me off this case. If this is how this person is going to treat this situation, I don't want to be here anymore. Right? Because at the end of the day, I provide premium legal services. Premium legal services. And if you're going to attempt to do a hand-to-hand with your man up in court next to me, I'm out of here. Your Honor, I'm out. And we'll see who else wants to come in here and defend this person that's engaged in this type of behavior.
Oh my goodness. But hey, Ebube, anything else you'd like to share in closing?
All right, man. Shout out to Young Thug. Hopefully the truth prevails. If he didn't do it, hopefully he gets out just like Gunna. If he did it, then, you know, justice is swift. But, you know, he's innocent until proven guilty. Either way, if you haven't been to Up Close and Center, check out Up Close and Center. I'm dropping the documentary China, Russia, NATO. I'm going to go ahead and drop that Wednesday at 11 a.m. If you like my content, subscribe. Also, too, Brother Dynast Amir, he's an exceptional guy. His name is going to be written in the history books. If you haven't purchased his documentary, please purchase that now, because that's something that you're going to enjoy, and you're supporting something that you actually like, right? And if you haven't been over to Up Close and Center, the channel I'm the creative director of, go ahead and subscribe. Check out all the old material. It's never old, because that material is classic material. The material Dynast drops is classic material. And anytime we link up together, it's classic material. So go ahead and check that out. And also, Shadu Jackson, he's doing a lot of wonderful things. He got a few channels. He's breaking them up. He's diversifying. Y'all check him out too. But make sure you, before this stream ends, make sure you hit that like button. That's your ticket for admission. Go ahead and hit the like button, hit the share button, and we'll see you next time.
Yes, sir. Everyone, thank you so much for joining. Like, share, subscribe. Make sure you get the documentary. Go to searchforuhuru.com. Subscribe to Brother Ebube's page as well. And if you need the legal services, like he said, he gives premium legal services. Premium. If you think he's thorough on the platform, just imagine if he's representing you. So next time, family, Dynast Amir, Search for Uhuru. Peace.